Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Fountain of Truth. I'm Mike Garboit and I'm sitting here with David Yao. How's it going, man?
Not too bad. How are you, Mike?
I'm great.
Thanks for having me in this space.
No problem. First podcast you said, right?
Yeah. It's exciting and a bit on edge at the same time.
It's just talking. We've been talking for the last like 15, 20 minutes to each other anyways, just talking. Just treat it like that. It's always pretty basic. You're not looking right at the camera. So this is the worst. When you do this, that's the worst. But yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself, David. What do you do?
Yeah. Funny enough, you mentioned not to look at the camera. I actually came from an arts background, so I know a little bit about recording and production. So
Nice.
I'll try my hardest not to look at the camera that way. So again, thanks for having me. I've been in sales for over 10 years now. A bit of background on that. I started out selling knives door to door. Some people can probably relate to that. Locally, we have a company called Cutco, and they will recruit high school graduates or university freshmen to go sell for them. So you're carrying these set of $3,000 worth of knives, and you're just knocking down doors and to see if anybody wants to take a bite. So I started my sales career from that, and then I've sold shoes, I've sold mattresses, I've sold building materials. The last one before what I'm doing now was selling software to companies for payroll processing. So right now I work for a company called EVS Canada. So it's a local company based out in Vancouver. It's a sales organization, so most of us are salespeople, just like me. So I'm the territory manager for this community here in Tri-Cities. And what we do is making sure companies are equipped with high quality refreshments for their employees. And I wanted to be here today to talk about that because of what we're going through right now. Obviously, in this grand scheme of things, we're starting to see, because we're in contact with all these offices, we're starting to see a trend change for sure. So I wanted to just really have a genuine conversation about that.
Yeah, obviously a bunch of things are changing. It's been a crazy year and a bit here. And things are looking positive and negative each day. You don't know what to think, because you get a little bit of positive information, like the vaccinations are here, they're coming, everybody's going to be vaccinated by June, and then you see the numbers of 800 plus,
Correct.
and it's really hard on people's mentalities. Like it's just being told you're doing good and then being told being bad instantly, and you're not never being told we're doing good really completely. So I think people are feeling that they're being blamed a lot for this when it's been a question mark this whole time. It's hard to know how to take it and how to react to it all. Mentally, it's draining, right?
Yeah. There's no COVID-19 101 book to read, right? And so everybody is doing the best they can to make sure they're informed and doing the right thing. But with so many offices, especially for employees that are working, and we had this conversation prior, it's because people just don't see the big picture. There's so many people affected in several different ways, some more affected than the others. It's hard to really relate to something that you're not in touch with every day, right? So for what we go through, so I take care of the office side of the business for EVS Canada. We also have territory managers that go out to service restaurants as well. So restaurants being one of the hardest hit industries right now. We're seeing a lot of people, they're going through life-changing circumstances. So I think it's really important that we talk more about, have more of these conversations about what's really going on, not just within your daily lives or your community, but more so in the grand scheme of things, like how everybody is doing, right? How everybody's going to pull through.
Yeah, and obviously I'm in the kind of like the small business world where I meet a ton of entrepreneurs and small business owners daily, and they I don't know, it's something they've been hit extra hard during all this, and I don't think anybody sees it like they see it. So it's hard to be. It's always hard to be in anybody else's shoes, no matter what what the situation is.
Right.
But I think right now there's a lot of people, if you haven't been an entrepreneur, small business owner, or working for yourself, or like fueling your own funds, not just like if you're working a 9 to 5 and you know exactly what you're going to get paid each time. No, like literally how you work is depending every 2 weeks what you're putting in your own pocket.
Right.
It really depends on how you go. And when you're told, like, you're basically working on a treadmill daily, where it's you want to move ahead and go forward, but as soon as you get ideas or something, some kind of new restriction will pull you right back. I know with us, when we were building this place, and still we're building this place still, but we really wanted events, bring people in the doors, have just different events of people socializing, mingling with one another, meeting each other, possibly creating members here through just people coming through the door. If you're having events with 60 to 100 people, like we were planning on many different kinds of art events, music events. We've had a couple political events and just like different events where people come in. That was our goal to build this place. And then all of a sudden, anytime we plan an event, new restriction would come down. You can't do this if you're having an event. And finally it was like no events. And so anytime we tried to plan,
Something
2 weeks, 3 weeks of planning would just be wasted time.
Right.
And so I think that's where a lot of people, I'm talking to them now, it's not that they've given up. It's just, it's hard to go full force when you don't know if it's just a waste. And that's scary. It's when you're mentally drained too, going full force and stuff, and you're already besides work mentally drained, and then your work keeps on, like it's like I said, the treadmill effect where you just go, but you're just staying in the exact same spot.
Right.
It is hard. It is so hard, and every one of them, some of them are doing better than they ever had.
Sure.
Depending on the industry. But some of them are questioning, do I
Exactly.
just go under?
It's hard to have a foresight on, whether your actions are going to be justified in a month's time or 3 months down the time, because we just don't know what's going to happen next. And so, like, being in the sales organization, we see it firsthand as well, because we obviously want companies to partner with us, but companies are, out of fear of the unknown, scared to pull the trigger. And that's not just within our industry, it's any sales organization or any industry right now. So it's hard to get people to commit, simply, right?
Yeah.
To put it simply. Yeah. And then in terms of, right now we have the first vaccine out, people are getting vaccinated, there's light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. People are starting to think about, what's going to happen when this whole thing is over. What's your take on that?
I think there's so many people that are anti-vaccine, and the headache isn't really gone. It's that what we're going to see, I think, in the next little while is when they start opening up things and it starts going back to normal, is the you can't do this unless you're vaccinated stuff. So there's all that talk about, like, if you want to fly, have to be vaccinated, travel across the border, vaccinated, go back to work, vaccinated. There's some businesses that like will not bring you back unless you're vaccinated. And it's not anti-vax versus pro-vaccination. I think everybody has a right to believe what they want to believe. That's why they live here.
Right.
But I think it's getting to a point that the headache's not gone. It's gonna come to a point where when we want to go back to normal, I wouldn't say half the country aren't gonna want to do it, but there's a good chunk of Canadians and Americans, if we want to talk about Americans, that are so against it that it's when they're being told that they can't do things because of a shot they don't believe in.
Right.
That's where it gets kind of scary, because no other time that I know were we ever forced on vaccinations.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying we are now, but it's definitely going in the trend.
More imposed on you. Yeah,
imposed on you, and making it like, oh, you're not gonna be able to live life unless you get this thing, especially with how quick it's come out. It's just like, you can't prove. I'm not saying I'm gonna probably get it because I want to live life normally, so I'm not anti-vax or whatever, but it's still scary putting hasn't been proven over years. It hasn't been like, unless it has been, and that's a whole nother conspiracy, right? But it's just telling everybody they have to do this when it's only been tested since last year. That's pretty scary to impose on the whole public.
Sure.
That's where I don't know if it's going to be normal. They always say the new normal, the new normal. Are masks the new normal? Like, are we even after vaccinations? Are we going to have to wear them places? I think some places are. I think some businesses are going to be ultra paranoid. They don't want to have to go back to change the rules and then go and have to go back and change them again. I think it's a whole nother reason why people haven't gone back to their offices.
That's right.
That's another reason why I think there's still tons of people working from home, and I don't think it's out of actually liking it. I don't think it's as enjoyable as it sounds to a lot of people. But when they're working from home, I just don't think it's working out as well as they say it is. And yeah,
so we had that conversation a little earlier before the podcast. So you had the chance to work at home for a month or so, and
it with kids, no, it's not happening. And what was it? Kids weren't in school, and then parents were supposed to stay home with their kids and teach their kids while they're working. And it was just like, luckily my kid isn't of that age. He's only 3 years old, but still, like, he needed us constantly. He was 2 then. Constantly, if we try to do anything, that's what your job is, raising that kid if you're around them. So sure. It's just, it did not work out. And people are working from home. I don't think it's working out. I think companies think it is, but we were talking before, number wise, I think they're gonna, once COVID can't be the excuse of why sales numbers suck, they're gonna be like, okay, what's the problem here? Oh, it's people working from home. People need to get out to their offices. They don't want to have to go back and forth though. That's if all of a sudden they're like, we're a co-working space. If we want, and we don't really want this either. If a person comes in, loves the space, they're like, okay, we'll become a member. But we're really like, we're kind of on the fence of doing it because we're kind of worried about COVID and everything, but numbers are getting a bit better, and we'll come in. Let's say this is last summer or something.
Right.
And then at middle of their contract, Bonnie Hendry comes up on stage and goes, we're changing this and this. We should probably work from home now. And they're going, okay, could we get like a refund on half of our month or blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work out. So we're getting more people that come in for tours are like, we're going to be members.
Yeah.
But as soon as COVID is like actually where I don't have to set up a home office, go back to work, get settled, then get sent back to my home office, get it all set up, get settled, then do this again. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes to move every 2 years.
Right.
They want to feel like that's their spot.
And we've definitely seen the drastic changes from health officials about, like restriction changes and whatnot. So no, your business is definitely a good example of that. Like you're seeing your business being affected because of the fear of the unknown, right?
Yeah.
I really want to jump in that to add more on that. So with employees who are working at home right now, I've been working from home since March of last year. So it's definitely been a change for us. I have a 4-year-old at home right now, so it's the same thing. A home was never meant to be a workplace, and some people have adapted well, some have not at all. So I think coming out of this, I got some other stats to show you as well. But bigger companies who have their employees working at home right now, they're already making changes to their current office setup, for example, or looking at changing locations, but more so to do with once this whole thing is over, how do they get people back into the office? Because I think one thing we can all agree on is whether if you're working in an office environment or working at home, people still yearn for that people touch.
Yeah.
People still yearn for that connection with their colleagues, with their management team. They still want to feel included in a culture, a team. And you don't get that through Zoom meetings. No. You don't get that through virtual events. Yeah. It's just different. For example, I think in Burnaby, there's the 3 towers in Metrotown. 2 of the towers are being replanned and redeveloped. And they're looking at, for example, outdoor kitchen space, or bookable meeting rooms or amenity rooms. And they're thinking about just investing a lot of energy and effort and financially as well to recreate the space so that people want to go back to the place that they work, right? So I think that is a trend that we're seeing right now. And you're definitely ahead of the game because you have created that space for people to feel like they can still mingle and socialize with others. And there's already tons of studies that came out that proves that yields positive results. You know, by mingling with others, you create you have more creative ideas, you have more innovations. So I think we're definitely not going to go back to a stage where people are 9 to 5 in the office 5 days a week again. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think we're going to see a hybrid of companies, because they don't want to lose their talents. They're going to offer that flexibility of people working from home, maybe 3 days a week or 2 days a week, and then, you know, certain days in the office. Now, how do you get your employees to do that? You have to change the way you think right now to make sure that they're enticed to come back to the office. So we're seeing that change, and I think it was one of the articles that Globe and Mail actually talked about is there's more employees are looking for more than just basic amenities right now coming from their employers. They're looking for more amenities that aids to their well-being. So we're not talking about the .com era where like there's foosball tables and beer fridges for the employees just so they can work longer. We're talking about, you know, yoga lessons. We're talking about maybe better coffee and tea, for example, and maybe it's massage sessions that company provides to their employees. Just in overall, you're bettering the well-being of the employees that way, right? Yeah. So we're definitely seeing that trend going. So what I do on my side is I provide high quality, sustainable coffee for offices. And what we're seeing right now is, although not a lot of people are back in offices yet, and we're definitely seeing our business impacted by that, we're still seeing people drinking coffee. So the total coffee consumption in the coffee industry hasn't really been affected. They're just choosing to drink coffee in a different place, namely their home. So the retail business side had really, really boomed. The business side had obviously been affected, but one thing's for sure, people still need their caffeine fix, or they still need that boost of energy throughout the day. So it's an interesting trend that we're seeing right now. So I just wanted to come on here and let everybody in the Tri-Cities know that we had come out with employee working at home programs as well. So people who are familiar with Nespresso knows that the Nespresso has boutiques in various malls that you can get coffee machines from. They're excellent, delicious, high quality coffee that are sourced responsibly. Right now, if you don't have a machine at home, if your employer is open to the idea, and you can always pitch this to them as well, is if you're used to having coffee provided for you in the office environment, now you're working from home, are you still getting the same what we call fringe benefits that company provides? If not, how are your company expecting you to have the same productivity output, right? So we have come up with different programs for employees at home to enjoy that fringe benefit as well. So
that's awesome.
That's just one of the examples.
It's I find that it's going to be a lot of almost like a playing of a game for a lot of business owners. Like they're going to have to figure out who they're not. Maybe they're going to close their locations down. Maybe they have offices that they don't want to lease anymore. But more places like here, co-working spaces that we all know introverts to extroverts. I can tell you right now, introverts are probably happy as hell working from home. They don't have to communicate with people. They probably zone out and do their work even better. Extroverts are going mentally insane. So if you have a place like a co-working space that the business is willing to work with, where it's like they come up with like a plan with their staff, is like, okay, if you stay from home, this is what you get. If you decide to use a co-working space, this is what we'll provide you, all this stuff. I think you're going to get a lot of people that will want to separate that home life to work life. And I think we're set up to, I think, flourish after all this, just because I know, like, sales, like, you're in sales. Sales is a very extroverts tend to do very well with it, because it's usually a go 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 mentality. You're talking to different people daily. Who knows how many different people you're talking to? So being face to face communications in an office setting is crucial to their success. And it could be the complete opposite. So I think what companies are going to have to do is decide, like, if they want to do the half and half game, where you kind of have the choice.
Right.
Those companies, I think, are going to be the most liked by their employees. It's just like, after all this, you guys get to choose what you want to do. If you choose one side that doesn't seem as good, like, in the end, you're not seeing it work for, like, really work. It's working for them, but not working for the company. Then you either push them out or push them towards being in-house, because I think that's the biggest thing. I think some people think they're being fine working from home.
Yeah.
But they're not. Not mentally, but, like, just the work they're putting out.
The productivity.
The productivity is not going to be there. The amount of distractions you can have is insane, and unless they literally are micromanaging you more than you would be if you were at work with the bosses, where they clock your screen time, like, they have a timer and it makes sure that you're there, and it will, like, see how much you're actually there. Like, how are they proving this? Like, if you were a business owner and you had hundreds of employees and you had no grip on how they were working, you could see only by the results. But sometimes those results just need better training. Mm-hmm. Well, if they're at home, how are you training them in a way where it works for those practical learners? I can tell you right now, if I started a new career or a new job, and they're like, here's your package, read through this. This will teach you how to do everything at home. All of our systems, all this stuff. I will want to just blow my head off. I reading all this stuff and trying to like, process it and do it the way they want to do it, and learning it that way would kill me. No, I need to practice it. I need to have, like, go on YouTube or something and, like, learn it myself, but I have to practice it. You can't do that from home.
That's right. You have to put it in action, right? And everybody learns differently as well. Just like the school system hasn't really changed much for the past few hundred years, and you're seeing some kids excel at learning a certain way, namely the public school system, and some kids just fall behind, just not because they're not there. It's because they learn in the different capacity. So same thing here. And funny you mentioned that package here. I happen to work for a different organization, 3 different organizations for the past 5 years. So I have personal experience with, when you started with a new job, how the company prepares you to get on board and get started right away. So throughout COVID, I'm sure like, all the educational or learning module software companies are having a great time right now. It's just because the situations has pushed the learning mode to be this way. But again, back to what we're saying, yes, everybody learns differently. So if you were stuck with a bunch of books and videos to watch, it's not going to be very effective. So companies have to adapt very fast right now. And knowing that you might not have the foresight to the end result, you just have to try different things to make sure your employees are still engaged.
Yeah, it's tough though. It's really tough. It's a big. I think it's one of those things where everything is a question mark, and everything feels like you're on the edge of a cliff right now.
Yeah.
That any decision you make, you're really hoping it's the best decision for you, your company, your staff. And I talked about before, I think politics has gotten involved heavily in it, where you hear about some business owners, if they lead to the, like, anti-mask, anti-COVID thing, they're pushing that onto their staff. Well, how do you do that if you have a staff that everybody has different ideologies and different worries, and I think that's where this has become such a headache, is pleasing everybody. Nobody seems to get along right now. This is crazy times in the world where nobody can have a full-on opinion, especially bosses, because then you have, I won't even get into detail, but just like, it's just crazy, the cancel culture that's out there, no matter what the situation. If it's a vocal side of things that doesn't like what you are doing, they'll try to end you pretty much, end your career, and whatever. And you see this with businesses. I've seen. I was reading an article. It was sometime last year about a company who was like a 5-star company. I forget, they were an American company, 5-star company on Google, like thousands of reviews. And the reason they did so well is they paid their staff really well, and they always like put staff before like the numbers that actually came into the company at all.
Right.
And then when COVID hit, they realized we can't afford this. We need to lay a bunch of people off. Well, when they laid these people off, they spoiled these people so well and so much with all these benefits, all this stuff for them. Once they laid them off, the animosity those people had towards their business owners were even more so, were worse than they would have been if they were just a crappy boss from the beginning, because of what they've come to expect is gold. And as soon as some hard times come, it is such a bigger picture to them. It affects them in a way where it seems like it's the end of the world, but they live in their own little world, really.
Sure.
And it's just not. Yeah, I think it's people have come to really either appreciate what they got or the exact opposite now. It's like you could be. I think people that really are doing okay through COVID are people that realize that basic life is you can do it. Like you don't need the same amount of money as you used to. You don't need to go out and party all the time with your friends and spend money on stuff you don't need.
Right.
Being home with family is sometimes people always used to complain that they didn't get enough time with their family, and now they're complaining that there's too much time with their family. I think everybody just needs to kind of accept what they're given and kind of be as positive as you possibly can right now. But it's tough. It's really tough.
It is. Yeah, I mean, when you speak about your woes, or maybe you're not having a good day, you have to keep in mind that there's always someone else having it much worse than you. I agree with you 100%. It's all about the mentality. You have to keep a positive mind, and you have to be content and appreciative of what you have currently, and go from that point on, right?
Yeah, it's hard to, but you have to. And I know there's a lot of, like, I talk to business owners a lot, and it just seems like the end keeps on getting further and further because you just don't know when the end is going to happen. But that just means more and more money being flushed away, or like not being able to make as much as you should be able to. A lot of companies just don't know what to do, and it just gets to a point where, yeah, it's just scary because loans that they're handing out, and all these businesses getting help when it's sold as help, and then after all this, they're left with hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans, but when I try to tell people that if you are one of those businesses that took all those loans, you were approved for all of them, yeah, you might be in some debt right now, but just the person that's most in debt is the people that are giving it to you. Because right now, banks, like the government, they're going to be so in debt after, I think, like, just with credit. Like it's the amount of money that they're handing out that we don't have. It's going to be in the trillions. So that's where I think it gets really scary. I don't know how much you've seen like different world leaders talking about like resets, and like Trudeau's one of them, global reset, and that's what really those conspiracy theorists on the one side get like red flag right away, because they've been talking about that kind of stuff forever. Is like new world order, end of the world, like how it is, global currency, they rule the world, like blah blah blah, and all these people have been saying it for years, and it's slowly like creeping into normality for more people, where people that never heard about that stuff are seeing it in mainstream.
That's
and
right.
It's just like when Justin Trudeau is talking about a global reset in a straight up in an interview, and you go and you do your research on what that means, and it's the World Economic Forum or whatever talking about people not owning anything anymore.
Right.
That is super scary. So if anybody ever is listening to this stuff and wants to go down a rabbit hole of just like information that you don't know if it's real or not, it's the whole global reset thing about how the amount of money that they're giving out right now, and all these governments going into billions to trillions of dollars in debt with help. Maybe that means that the businesses might not have to pay back stuff because they own you now. So that's where it gets real. When all this stuff starts coming out together, and like as a puzzle piece, and you're like, okay, why does this seem planned? Just like you hear about the stuff about like the masks being ready for shipments and stuff. Like there's pictures of like I think different places in China, different docks in China with shipments of masks and PPE supplies ready before it actually was a pandemic over here.
Right.
So it's just like when you see that stuff, and it's I think in the past government has been really able to hide like secret stuff they're doing, or just like keep it under wraps. Nobody was talking about it. Now in our technological time, they're getting caught left and right. Like
Right.
when you politicians are doing their talks about like you can't leave your country, travel restrictions, blah blah blah, and then Trudeau goes to Florida or something. Like it's just like instantly after he tells the Canadian
That's right.
population you can't.
That's
Well,
right.
maybe 30, 40 years ago he could have done that. Nobody would have known.
That's correct.
Now everybody knows what's happening, and I think these different corporations, governments around the world that got away with some shady stuff for years, or it's in the open, and more people are seeing it and questioning things, and it's either going to be a revolution of positive or a revolution of just craziness in the next few years. That's what I predict is going to be. That's why we talk about the vaccination shots. It's beautiful that they're here, and it's going to normalize things really quick, but the revolt from the people that are so against it it's going to ruin it for everybody. It's going to be well, Donald Trump president for 4 years. Like, what did we hear about for 4 years? Every day of our lives as Canadians, we heard about Donald Trump and how crappy of a job he was doing. Why? Like, it's not us.
That's right.
And it was
It's
all
our Big Brother.
it's Big Brother. It's in what they want us to care about. It's messed up. It's really big stories that come out through this all COVID that just get swept under the rug, and it's not even like conspiracy theorist articles on like websites you never heard of. It's like mainstream publicities like New York Times, like just global journalistic companies talking about stuff that they never used to, but nobody's talking about it. I always talk about like aliens is one of my favorite subjects in the world, just like the idea of other life out there. And New York Times releases an article about legit finding like they've been reverse engineering crashed spaceships that they don't know if they came from space, or the biggest worry is they came from a different country in the world, right?
Right.
But they released an article about it in New York Times as a government article. It was about, I think it came out April of last year or something. Nobody cares. That's huge. That's huge. It's all been the C word. COVID, Donald Trump, COVID, Donald Trump, COVID. Donald Trump's not taking it seriously. He's an idiot. Everybody take it super seriously. This guy's the biggest moron in the world. Don't do what he's doing. Don't do what he's doing. And that's what I see with the promotional of what media did to try to get everybody just to be like, if you see the biggest idiot in the world doing this, you shouldn't be doing this. Right? And
yeah, I think what's happening right now is we're getting bombarded with so many big unnormal news that we're getting complacent, and so the impact of these sort of news is affecting us in a different way. Like we're growing immune to it. Just, if you watch a bunch of zombie movies, you're gonna be, not scared of them anymore, right? I mean, just take, for example, really simply, you look at the American death rate right now because of COVID-19, it's unprecedented, but nobody's really talking about it. But it's COVID. That's why it happened. But yeah, no, it's a strange world.
Well, they're not talking about the numbers, so I think not, because there's a lot of people down there that just don't listen to any authority. But I think the numbers, because they've noticed, and that's another thing that's been in the open. They release these numbers that are so extreme, and then they go back a few weeks later and lower them because they realize these people didn't all die of COVID, and that's where it's questionable. It's just like, is this a scare tactic of like, why is there no flu deaths in the last 2 years, or a year and a half? Why is there literally they're not talking about the higher numbers of deaths and overdoses and the number, they're not talking about all these other things anymore. But I think that's where the whole thing is. You're always going to have those people on the one side that are just like question everything and say that the government's out to get them and everybody, corporations suck. And they're always going to be that way. But when it starts moving its way into the middle political minded person, or even the left political minded, where it's just like, okay, man, this doesn't seem right. This doesn't seem right. Like just how they feed information, how British Columbia in the beginning, we were touted as like we were the best at conquering COVID because our numbers are so low. And then you find out it's because they're not testing anybody. That's a huge thing. Like what we were talking last year when me and Aaron decided to stay home for a month when we were building this company. Aaron, we found out it was allergies. We both have seasonal allergies, so we're like, we're hard of breathing, all this stuff.
Yeah.
But she was trying to get a hold of a doctor just to find out, and they're like, okay, yeah, call a doctor. We'll try to get you a test for COVID. Blah blah blah. Could not get through to a line. Could not get in for a test. Could not, and it's just like, and then you read these articles of Bonnie Henry's getting praised in like the United States, all this stuff for like being the best doctor, and she delivers the message to her people so well, and people are listening to her, and it's just like, we're not testing anybody. New York or whatever, LA probably was testing like huge amounts of their population while we weren't testing anybody. Of course we're going to get touted.
Right.
Like if you're not doing, then all of a sudden you open centers in every city and it's like, we went from 20 to like 400 to 600, and it's just like,
that's right.
How does that make sense?
Right.
Oh, it makes sense because we're testing people.
So I feel like it's a two-edged sword or two-sided mirror. Is because of technology advances, now we're getting access to all these information, and because of this, you're starting to question the authenticity of the information you're getting it from. But at the same time, because you have questioned these data, you start to link it to the real picture, right?
Yeah.
So no, it's very interesting for sure.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's something that I feel like can be talked about all the time by almost anybody, but it's very scary to talk about at the same time because you don't want to say the wrong thing. And I don't think I ever say the wrong thing. I think it's just people need to open their minds just to, you're allowed to do your own research on stuff, and don't be like kind of manipulated to only believe what mainstream media tells you. Because my perfect example is down in the States, how big their media conglomerates are, like huge companies that do have political backing. Depending on what network you are, you have a different political backing that helps fund that network. So they're obviously going to run stories that are more positive towards what their initiatives are.
Sure.
And down in the States during that whole the storming of the Capitol grounds there, last year or whatever it was.
Yep.
You watch 3 different networks. You go CNN, you go NBC, you go Fox.
You get 3 different stories.
You get 3 different stories, and you call those people 3 different things. So like it was like, I think NBC called them rioters, Fox called them protesters, and then CNN called them domestic terrorists. And it's just like, okay, so that depending on the person, it's like Twitter. It's like Twitter. Twitter is one of those things that when you join it, it tells you what you like, things that you like, and you keep following all these people that are like, usually the same, what you like or the same ideology as you. So if you follow enough people and you have hundreds of followers or something, and you follow all these people, that starts to become life. That all these people are the only people that really are here, and everybody believes this shit. Sorry, but like that's what they feel like, right? They all believe that that's what's going on in the world, and they've actually manipulated life to believe that that's how everything is going. That's where I think social media is just so bad for us, is you don't get that wide variety of just information. It's only what you want.
Yeah, and we can get into a whole topic of the AI algorithms behind social media, and I think there's a couple of documentaries out on Netflix about that already, but you're exactly right. It's when you, in this day and age, when you find information, you're going to be fed information of what you think you're looking for. And that way, it's sort of like tunnel vision. You're only going to see one side of the story, right?
Yeah, and just like conversation I try to explain to people on podcasts is when it's like it's your first podcast, and some people come in and they want it freestyled. Some people want it really structured. And what I try to tell them is when it's structured, it usually is very short answers. the person's not listening to what the other person's saying. It's just get to the point. When it's freestyle, it branches off into different conversation. It can go down so many different rabbit holes, and I think that's what doing your own research does.
Right.
There's branches of like that, and it's bad and good, because when you, let's say you read something that's kind of questioning what's going on in the world today, and it's a very respectful article, and you read it and you're like, oh, this seems legit, and then you look more into it, and it branches off into another article that branches off, and by the end of that, you're in the like into the territory of like craziness that just is like, but it's easy enough to train your brain to feel like it's normal, because
Right.
you almost, each article they change a few words and it just becomes more and more outrageous, but then it becomes normal. And I think that's just where I feel why I like freestyle conversations with podcasts, is that like it usually brings out the real people, because it will branch off into different conversations, and it's not like it will almost like unfilter the person, but it just kind of, I don't know, it opens up their minds and almost like makes them think about things they're not thinking about anymore.
Absolutely.
It will make them like realize you might think a certain way that you just don't think about, if that makes any sense.
Oh no, for sure. You're in that type of conversation, you're forced to really listen to the other people, what he or she is saying, and you gotta. There's no other way. There's no script, so you're forced to react spontaneously as well.
Yeah.
So that's when you really get the conversation going.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's an edgy subject. It's been very tough last couple of years for emotions of people and being able to handle something against what they feel. And I think it might, hopefully it changes once this all kind of dies down, where people realize they can be friends with one another. So I think there's a lot of people that think if you have difference of opinion right now, you can't be friends. If you're a difference of political party follower, you can't be friends. And it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. If everybody was the same, man, it would be so boring.
That's
It would
right.
be so boring in this world. You need people to question each other, and you need people to talk to each other, and you need to have difficult conversations that maybe even the two people having those conversations together, you would think like, if one person's on one side of the fence, the other person's on the other on a subject, the only way those people will have any respect for one another is if they let each other voice their opinions, and then have the conversation of why they feel their side is a little bit better. Because you can train somebody with a crazy ideology, if they believe it hard, they're going to believe that way until you respectfully tell them a different way. And I think that's where we're going wrong in this world, is the whole, it's like, you're an idiot. There's no like, oh, I could see what you're saying, but this is why I think this. Respectfully.
That's right.
It's like, oh, you don't support this movement, Trump supporter, or something like it. That's what they do to people. It's just like, you can't put people in that bracket of this. Like, if they question one thing that you were going heavy with, all of a sudden they're a racist bigot or something. So that's really what's happening in the States, especially.
Right.
Is just like, if a white person questions anything that the left is doing right now,
You're automatically
a right
Yeah.
conservative racist bigot. And it's just like, no, there's a lot of stuff that they're doing that's questionable. It has nothing to do with me being a racist bigot or anything like that. It has nothing to do with that. It's just you're allowed to question. And I think that's where it gets scary, because it's a media manipulation of one side that will tell people, like, you have to react this way towards these people. They're idiots. They're this or that. And nobody's respecting one another. So why would people respect the heads that are kind of making people act this way? Why would they respect them giving them information, like, when people really know kind of what's going on? I said it should have been just health authorities telling us about this stuff.
Right.
You had health authorities up on a stage telling us, stay home, put your masks on if you have to go out. Or we could have done the things like New Zealand, where it's like legit shut down the country and just like everybody has to stay home. Give them, I don't know if it was like rations and stuff, but it was like really strict. Look at them now. We didn't do that. We're doing it this way where we're trying to please everybody. Right. You're never going to please everybody. And right. I have told people, I brought up this. It's like a kind of example of what you would rather do. And I've talked it's the small business owners conversation of like, at the beginning of this, if you came to me and told me we had to be shut down for a month, just shut down, nobody's going to work, I'd have been pissed. I'd have been like, okay, I'm trying to build this company. God damn it, I'm not. I want to go and build my company.
100%.
But if you told me a year from then that we'd be still in this boat, I would have much rather done a month of jail time than do 2 years of community service or 2 years of probation. Like it's like get that time done.
Yep.
Go back to the real world afterwards. And I think that's where everybody was so, you can't take away my life, my freedom, my this and that. And it's those vocal people. And in reality, if you had a health authority that seemed respectful come up, it's like, listen, we have to do this. It's not going to be fun, but we have to shut down businesses. We have to send everybody home. Nothing's open. We'll send you rations through the government. You put like I think some countries have like lists of stuff you send in, and you just choose what you need, and they bring it to you for like 2 weeks or something. Like every week they bring you a bunch of shipments. It's like it sounds kind of like jail. It sounds like kind of like you're being trapped, but at the same time they're actually still trying to take care of you. And your government wouldn't have been billions of trillions of dollars in debt. They would have only been about a month of help in debt.
That's right. I think it's a combination of things that led us to this day. I mean, one thing's really special about Canada is that freedom to have your opinions. And obviously, what you said about the government or the health authority trying to please everyone, that's a product of what Canada is. I happen to be able to relate to that because I came from Taiwan. And being in a different system, Taiwanese people, they're scared shitless. Excuse my French.
All you want.
About what's coming, and because in 2004 they had SARS.
Yeah.
People died, and it was a big thing. So people were remember that. So ever since 2014, you would see people with masks on trains, and if you're wearing mask on the street, you're not deemed as someone that's really dangerous, that's life threatening. That just means that you're protecting yourself and you're paying respect to others as well. Yeah. Obviously, we haven't gone through that in Canada before, so obviously people will react in a different way. Whereas in Taiwan, we have a central health authority that basically, with respect to its citizens, laid down really strict rules on how we're going to proceed with this to minimize the infection rate. And they've done that in a really effective way where I think it was... I don't remember the stats anymore. I don't want to quote it here, but essentially people are still leading normal lives right now. Whereas when you come over here, it feels like a completely different world. It's the same world that we live in, but two different realities. Yeah. So it's very interesting.
Well, and it depends on the type of person too. Like just their they're just how they're mentally there right now. Like I live in Maple Ridge. Me and Aaron live in Maple Ridge, and if you went to Maple Ridge at the beginning of COVID, you wouldn't believe COVID was a thing. People, like, if it was probably 1 in 5 people were wearing masks before they mandated them. People were going out. They were doing it. Yep. And it's a different mentality. We work in Poco. I go to Coquitlam Center in May of last year, and if you weren't wearing a mask, it was like, yeah. And it's just like, that's 20 minutes apart from each other. Right. So what is the difference? Like, what is the difference between these people? And I think it's just I don't know. I think it's a lot to do with just your surroundings. Like if you see a bunch of people wearing masks, you're like, shit, I got to put one on.
That's right.
In Maple Ridge, nobody wanted to, so nobody did until it was mandated, and all of a sudden everybody's wearing them, and there's no masks in sight because all of Maple Ridge is buying masks. Right. And it's. I don't know, man. I'm hoping that people realize that, like, because it's not just COVID. It's so many different things in the world right now that you're only allowed to have a certain opinion, or you're basically wiped off of friendship circles.
Or you're being labeled in a certain way. Right?
Labeled in a certain way, and that's completely the opposite of what, like, people are fighting for stuff by doing the things they're fighting against. Like, you talk about anti-bullying day and stuff, like... You know how they have Pink Shirt Day out here? So it's like Pink Shirt Day, great idea. Like it's a great thing. It's supporting, like bullying shouldn't be a thing. But it gets to a point where if kids are going to school, everybody's wearing pink. Little Jimmy forgot to wear his pink shirt because his dad is old school and doesn't want his son wearing pink or something, and you don't know about that, and he gets to school and he's bullied about it. That doesn't make that.
Yeah.
And that's what we're getting a lot with right now. Like, I think that's just a small example of like what's going on in the world right now. That's Justin Trudeau going out there saying don't travel, and then he travels. Or like the Ted Cruz in the States, say like he's supposed to be a leader, a governor of a state. The whole state goes out of power or whatever. It was like the biggest, coldest time they've ever had in the history of Texas or whatever. And he takes his family to Mexico, and it's just like that. It doesn't. You can't have these people running our countries and running our lives that aren't being the representative, and they're not like being a good example for their public and for their people. And that's why I said at different times we're catching them doing this shit now.
Because they have done this before, like throughout history.
Always. Political leaders are the worst. Like they are the used car salesmen of people. Like they will tell you exactly what you want to hear about shit.
Right.
And it's bad. And that's why I think Trump even got in power down there, is because they were so sick of politicians. And this is what I try to tell people. And this is not a pro-Trump talk. This is just think
Before
about
you label me.
think about this, okay?
Right.
Do you want somebody like he says exactly what he's thinking?
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
He's not hiding anything. Yeah, he probably should because he's an idiot. The stuff he's saying is idiotic. But he is exactly what you want, but you want it on a much more put together individual who's liked and has more respectful opinions and stuff.
That's right.
Or do you trust somebody who says that they're for you, but literally does everything behind your back and doesn't do anything that they said they were going to do for you when they ran?
That's right.
And that's a politician.
Right.
So right now, people think that the U.S. is in a better state than it was because Donald Trump was president before and he was the worst ever. I don't necessarily agree that they're worse off or they were worse off then. I think it may seem like that because that's all we heard about was how shitty of a fucking president he was. But
we're just seeing more of a true picture of what America is right now.
Yeah. It's bad. It's really bad. And if you think Joe Biden's the savior of like let's change America, you're delusional. And he is too. Like it's nothing against someone that age, but he shouldn't be running a country, especially when with COVID. Who are you worried about? You're worried about the seniors. You're worried about older people. And now he's traveling around a disease-ridden country trying to become president when you can tell he's not completely there. And he's your leader of your country. And it is literally like, that's... I honestly thought Trump was going to win. Not because I thought he should, but I thought he was because I'm like, people, is this what you really think is the future of America? Mm-hmm. No, I think the future of America, especially America, is an independent with a lot of money. And that is someone who's like puts together a team of different minded individuals that can come together and collaborate and come up with a good plan.
Right. Because
you don't have to agree on everything, but you have to come to a consensus. And there's no consensus in politics. It's just their way or the highway.
Yeah.
The right says this. Even if we agree, we have to say no.
Right,
or vice versa. It's
very
like,
much
no.
Like that.
That's why everybody always jokes about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson running for president. Even in his new show, Young Rock, he's talking about it. Like it's a foreshadowing. It's supposed to be like 10 years from now or something, and he's running for president. And it's like I see guys like him if he did do that winning, because he would be the type of person that's like, I'm not going to run for a party. I have billions of dollars in the bank. I will spend my own money to fly around the country and do my own political party, like just promote myself. And people will actually respect that because he's not. Donald Trump was traveling on tax dollars while he was a billionaire running to be president. Like he used his party's money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, that's shady. That's literally taking money from the people when you are a billionaire.
Right.
So I really think someone with an influential background, I'm not saying I agree with it totally because, I mean, he's a professional wrestler, Hollywood celebrity. Doesn't mean he's going to be good in politics, but I think that's going to be the way of politics in the future where it's more independent. And I think it has to be because right now you got the left and right that have a lot of people are in the middle that just kind of they vote for what they think is they have to or something, but they don't actually really completely believe with either side.
Sure.
They just kind of pick the better.
You don't have the best choices. You're going with whatever is.
You're voting against and not for.
Right. Exactly.
And I think once you get there's less and less people tied to the parties, because I feel the people that are really tied to their parties are, you can literally, the leaders of those parties can say any terrible thing and they have followers that will be like, yeah, like supporting it. They don't even process what the person's saying.
Right.
And I think the more and more, I meet tons of people a day, like every day, man, and so many more people are here. They're just like, be a good person. How about that? Just be good to one another.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree on everything, but be good to one another. Treat each other with respect. How about that? Not, oh, you got to respect me, but you're a damn idiot. Like that doesn't work in society. Nobody is ever gonna have a sensible conversation with another person if the first thing that's done to them is an attack. And that's how everybody is reacting now. And I don't know if it has a lot to do with COVID emotions.
It brings it out, I guess, right? Now we're seeing the problem firsthand because of COVID. So I feel like COVID-19, there's a lot of sad news, but also at the same time, we got to see the world in a different way now, and people are starting to notice more things, right? Yeah. So authenticity, I think, is what's gonna come to everybody's mind, like with elections. Yeah, you're saying individual, and that's because they're authentic, right? People want to go for that. So, yeah.
There's more people that I think are going to want to do that. I know that down in the States, a lot of Democrats and Republicans have left their parties because they don't agree with any of them and they don't know where they belong now.
Right.
And I've heard more and more actual liberals jumping to conservative side because they're calling like conservatives a new liberal, because they're kind of more, they're all just kind of shifting to the left a little bit.
Yeah. And
then anything that comes out to try to be more right is like totally canceled instantaneously because they're labeled again.
Right.
And it's like I've seen it firsthand locally that people, like, you would never see conservatives become liberal. Those are completely opposite spectrums, but they are, like, either way. Even some are back and forth because it's not what it used to be. I know when I was in high school and they were starting to talk politics, they were really, how they promoted it to high school students was liberals are the laid back ones, and they're more accepting to change, and the world is in a positive place. And then the conservatives are religious and they have a more old school ideology. They're anti this, and it was all they told us was anti whatever, like, basically the youth was fighting for.
So basically, when you're introduced to the system, you were already taught how to label one side from the other, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you came to understand the concept.
Yeah.
So it's no wonder why people are divided this way.
Oh, it's the opinion teaching, and that's what really is bad. Is we teach opinion as fact, and we are a very liberal area in the world.
Right.
So obviously, when they're teaching kids at a political an event at a high school, when they're trying to teach you about politics, how is it going to be taught to you? It's going to be taught to you in a Western Canadian ideology way, where literally, I remember it vividly. It was when the conservative leader was on stage locally doing his presentation for the audience. The questions that came to him were like, it was like bullets. Like they were like this, like mostly women, like girls in high school, like abortion talk and all stuff. And literally, I remember I was sitting there in the crowd listening to this guy. I come from a liberal household, like, and so I've already, like, this guy's kind of weird. He has a very religious background. I'm not against religion, but it's not for me. And he gets asked about abortion, and he's completely against it. And then he literally goes into a briefcase and pulls out a fetus in a jar, and says, "Does this look like it was once alive?" And people are like, "Oh yeah," it's like, "But yeah, so you killed a lot." And so, like, it was like, but that just looked batshit crazy to me. That was like, that guy walking around with a fetus in his bag, like, what? Like, who does that, right?
Really wanted to make a point.
Really wanted to make a point, but that, I can tell you, definitely swayed a bunch of high school kids in a way that was like, screw, I cannot believe that guy did that. So that the conservatives, I don't think, will ever have a do you ever hear about like winning parties really in BC? Conservative? No, it's like they get like no ridings, get like 0 ridings. And it's totally swerved that way. And I'm not saying they deserve it. I'm not conservative. I just think everybody needs open, even playing field and not swayed in a way where it's politics being used in politics, if that makes sense.
That totally makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I think what we're doing, independent media, is so crucial in today's times. There's still a few, I think there's like one major television station in BC that is independently owned. One now. That's bad. That's not good. So I think independent media is the way of the future because it's real conversation between real people and not just filtered out garbage. It's yeah, I don't know how you feel about it, but yeah, it's pretty. I just think people need to talk.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. Like independent media like yours, like us having conversation today, yeah, you're making it accessible to someone else who wants to opt in to listen to it and maybe open their minds to the same discussion a little bit. It's all for the better, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's tough. You don't want to come off a certain way because it's so easy to be labeled something nowadays, and when I come off, I always, people that are on the attack side of things will always hear negative about what they push and not the other side, and vice versa. Honestly, you can, if I literally talk positive about both sides this whole entire time, but then dropped a couple negatives about each side, that's all you would hear about is the negatives. I will tell you right now that it's all negative. I think politics is so prehistoric the way it's done now. We've learned that with how how the voting
the voting system. Yeah.
It's so prehistoric, and it's been proven that it's screwing things up. And the count, how hard is counting? Like in reality, how hard is it? We've made it extremely hard, and we've made it so people are going to question it. I hate talking about politics as much because I'm actually not a political person, but this last year has really put it in the forefront, and I feel like I have to talk about it. People need to talk about it because guys like Joe Rogan do, and Joe Rogan is, in my opinion, the most, it's hilarious to say that, but I think he's the most real and raw mainstream person there is. So he doesn't hold back who he has on his shows. It can be people from either crazy side of the spectrum, but he'll interview them with respect and let them talk and not just attack their opinions. If he doesn't agree, he'll tell you.
Yeah.
And then they talk about it.
Again, authentic.
And you can get along, have a beer after, do whatever you need to do. You get along. And I remember vividly being a kid growing up in the 90s, just all through the 90s, and seeing parties my parents were having with friends and family and debates going on around the table about anything. And then one person might get worked up, they laugh about it, they blow up, and then they go back to their night and they laugh. And it's just now Uncle Jimmy's like gets kicked out of the house because he's got this opinion on this. It's just, people need to love people, man, and realize that if we were all the same, it would suck. It would suck so bad. It would be so boring, and we'll never be that way. We need people to have their own opinions. I think, I don't know what time we're at right now. It's probably getting pretty late, but like censorship, like that's another thing that seems like it's coming into the forefront. A lot of censorship in general, and it's happened in the early 90s too.
Sure.
Where they wanted to censor people. They started rating everything. Kids weren't allowed to. You couldn't put anything with swear words on before 9 p.m. And then all of a sudden, late 90s hit, and they were just like extreme this, extreme that, like over sexualized content, tons of cartoons with swearing, and all that. Some people were like, screw this, we're doing what we want. This is a free country.
Right.
I think that's what we're going to see a lot here after this like total crunch of this like censorship and people not being able to talk the way they want to. You're going to see an explosion of media, and like independent media, especially, of just people doing what they want to do. I come from a pro wrestling background. I don't know if you know that world very well, but it's a show. So it's predetermined. It's a fight. It's basically like live action stunt work.
Right.
How do you turn that industry into a politically correct industry? You can't. People want them to. you can't. You want a bad guy versus a good guy. You want like an over the top bad guy that people hate and want to lose so bad. So what does that guy do? Things that probably people don't agree with. Well, now it's getting to a point where people are trying to cancel wrestling characters. Like, oh, this person can't. It's a show. Do you not want entertainment?
Right.
And what has always been a selling point in movies, anything, is bad versus evil.
Right.
And that is life. This is just pro wrestling is an extreme version of it. It's just like you take a character that might be a lot like your Uncle Jimmy at home or whatever, but blown up a million times into an extravagant, crazy, larger than life character.
Because you already have an Uncle Jim at home. You don't want to see an Uncle Jim. You want to see a more exaggerated version of it.
I always say like the most over character, like the most the character that people would hate the most right now would be a pro Trump supporter down in the States. There's not one wrestler in America that does that as their full-on gimmick. Like there's Trump supporters that are wrestlers, but they don't like come out with like a Donald Trump flag and that's not their full gimmick. But it would be the most hated gimmick ever. But people are scared to do it because it would be taken seriously.
Oh yeah.
When there's this guys wearing tights wrestling each other on the weekend, like it's just like so. This is where it's people need to lighten up and take a joke, and it's not all personal. Everything is taken so personally right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Whether it's literally in every aspect of life. Everybody wants to fight for whatever they are, but in reality, people just need to realize we're all pretty much the same. If that makes, but so different. Like we all should just kind of.
We're people at the end. We're not divided by countries. We're not divided by our skin colors. We're people just from different backgrounds that we grew up in, and that's why we have different opinions.
Yeah.
And we should be free to express these opinions and respect each other's opinions, right?
Yeah. That's where you come from. If you talk to a Southern American white person who only grew up around rural white people and their families grew up in racist households, they're not going to know any better. Their brains, when they're sponges as kids,
100%.
only are going to be taught that, and that's all they're going to know. They step out of that small town rural city, move to a major city, have those ideologies, they're not going to last. Well, then what happens? They go, they make friends, they get told, like, this is why you can't think this way, blah, blah, blah. Then they're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Then my parents were wrong, or my family, but it's not that their parents were wrong. That's just how they were raised too.
Mm-hmm.
It's where you can't really change brain development. So like if a person is like I said, a toddler, a kid, and they're fed all this stuff and their brain's just learning and processing it, unless they're told otherwise, they're not gonna, in a respectful way, might have you, like, you can't do it in, like I said, the idiot way where you're just like, oh, you believe this? You grew up in Arkansas, you idiot redneck, blah blah blah. You should be like, it's just, it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, because you don't get to choose where you're born or what kind of family you're brought up in, right? Yeah. And you're gonna come into the world, into the society, telling what you know. So yeah, people just need to respect each other.
They do, and I think they need to realize how much more and more we're like. The pigments of our skin, what sexual orientation we are, whatever, does it really affect you? No, it's where you grew up. It's like where you are in location of the sun, even. Like it's like over time, why we all look different from one another is just exactly where we live in this world.
That's right.
And it's just, it doesn't, it's so screwed up. But yeah, man, we talked a lot of politics today. Yeah. I know we did.
And some other topics too.
Yeah. But this is where it gets to a lot. If it's open grounds, because the world has turned so much towards this, and it needs to. Politics, and the reason why we talk about it so much is because they need to separate themselves from all these major things going on in the world, and it didn't. COVID was so tied together with politics that people are going to question it for sure from the beginning. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. It's my first experience with podcasts, and that was fun.
Yeah. It's nerve wracking. It can work me up a little bit because I care about people.
Yeah.
And I think it's sickening to see what, like, just the corruption of people's minds.
Sure, and how divided we're really become, right?
Yeah, and when we're not that different from one another,
Yeah.
they're trying to divide us. It's pretty. It's. I could get. I'll do a little thing here about just the hypocrisy of just the people that are fighting for something and do the opposite. Like, there's a lot of just people that only think that their race is getting attacked when they come back in an attack form against the race they think their race is being attacked by.
Yeah.
And especially, like, I have friends that like, I think BLM is one of the, like, from the beginning it was definitely a necessity. Like, we know how down, especially in the States, how Black lives, like, the police have always kind of just had, like, it out to get.
Sure, there's definitely that connotation.
Oh,
sure.
100%.
Yeah.
But when it gets to a point where Black people are calling all white people privileged and racist, if you don't really, like, push this, it's like, you can't call all white people privileged. You can't.
Now you're just like them.
Yeah, you're just like them. And
Right.
I see a lot of that. Where it's just like, okay, stop. We're all equal. Stop making fun of this race. But then they come out and they literally do the exact opposite. Stand-up comedy, same thing. You. There's more of an open book of what you can say if you're not white now. Oh, if you're white, you can't be the racial
Right.
stand-up comedian.
Right.
Every other stand-up comedian, I swear to God, that's their gimmick. If you like, I'm a huge Dave Chappelle fan. He will make fun of every other race.
That's correct.
But if Dave Chappelle was a Dave Chappelle white guy from Louisiana, his act could not be that act.
That's right.
And if we really want the world to be even, it's got to be even. Like, it's got to be like everybody can, even playing field. But it's just.
So the day when we see a white guy on the screen on the stage joking about everything that he's not supposed to anymore, then we know we're in a good place.
And he's getting kicked off the stage and lost his career. It's happened to a few white guys in the last 5-10 years. So, and I'm not, like, praising the white guy. Like, I'm just saying, no, we just need to either let up or realize that everybody needs to be in the same playing field, and that if it's okay for some people, it should be okay for all people to kind of have the same vocal rights or just rights. It's rights. And I think it'll be that treadmill.
Yeah.
We'll go back to that treadmill of just people thinking everybody's got it harder. We got it harder than everybody else.
Woe is me.
Woe is me. And it's no, especially in Canada, man. It's a multicultural country. Everybody seems to, like, I get along a lot better than down in the States. I grew up, the kids don't see color. They don't. Kids don't see that. They really don't notice that. They make friends with everybody until they're told that they're supposed to notice it. And that's where I think we're seeing, like, until you're adults, like, I still don't really notice it until they tell us we have to notice that we're different. We're not. We really aren't.
Right.
If you grew up in this area, if you're living here, we're not different from one another. We're living in the same culture. We're living in a flourishing part of the world that you came from. You said Taiwan, right?
That's right.
And it's gorgeous. Like, Vancouver is so beautiful. It's an amazing place to be. And people just, they need to know that people get along a lot of places in this world, and we're not promoting that.
Right. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. What time is it here? Yeah, I got an event soon.
Cool.
So.
Awesome.
But yeah, thanks, David.
Yeah, no problem.
It was fun. We should do this again sometime.
Thanks
I think
for
you were
having
good at it. If this is your first time, you're definitely good at conversation. I think you have a good insight. So yeah, if you ever want to do it again, let me know.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah. Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. This has been Political Talk with Mike.